Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This week's video is going to be super fun because I'm going to introduce you to 8 of my favorite mountain bike products ever made. If you're a first-time viewer, my name is Jeff Lanoski. I'm a professional mountain bike rider. I've been riding pro for over 23 years, and over that time span, I've had the awesome opportunity to work with a bunch of companies and collaborate on some really cool projects. So the 8 products I'm going to be showing you today are signature products that I've been lucky enough to put my name on. Let's dive into the first signature product I ever had. This was a Threshold Design bash ring. So I started out riding trials. When you ride trials, you're riding over rocks and logs and stuff like that. So back in the day, we used to take all the big gears off our bike and only leave the granny gear in the front. You would replace the big and the medium ring with one of these. So this would allow you to ride up and over logs without smashing your chain. And then it also had this knurled surface, so if you got a little bit of drive, you can crawl over stuff. Digging this thing out and taking a look at it definitely brings back some memories, and I basically spent the first 10 years of my riding career riding trials. As you all know, I rode for Giant bicycles for a long time. This was a Giant STP. It was one of the first dirt jump hardtails. This was one of the later versions, but this leads into a bunch of my other signature products, so I thought that this would be the version I'd show you. But it has some really cool features. We were one of the first companies to use an integrated headset on a dirt jump frame and a 1.5-inch steer tube. We started making this frame before tapered head tubes. It used to be 1 1/8 all the way down, and those forks were pretty floppy. Every fork that you get nowadays is a tapered steer tube, so it's very common, but this was one of the first frames to use that. We were one of the first companies to flare the top tube and pierce it. And the idea behind that was, if you were ever to crack this frame in the rear end, you would essentially have to rip this tube, which wasn't going to happen. You could run this frame single speed and adjust your chain stays. As a trials rider, I would always make it as short as possible. There were some really cool subtle graphics on the top tube and down tube, and that tied into some stuff. So let's take a look at some of the other products that came out around the same era. So the next product I want to show you is a signature pedal that I did with a company out of Canada called Straight Line, and these were the JL signature pedals. A fun fact about this project is these pedal pins were actually 24 karat gold plated. And while it looked really cool, when you built them up, you'd only ride them about 1 or 2 times until that gold came completely off. But having actual gold pedal pins on your bike was definitely a super cool flex back in the day. This was probably one of my least used signature products ever. It was a handlebar end cap, also done by Straight Line. These things were super cool. They matched the pedals. It had the JL logo. I ran them on my bike for a short period of time, but I didn't like the big heavy aluminum end cap on my grip, so I eventually ended up just using BMX style grips. But these were a pretty cool finishing touch to put on your bike. Another product that was super cool was a headset collaboration I did with a company out of Germany called Acros. So if you take a look at it, it has the JL logo on there. When you ran the pedals and the frame and the signature headset all together, it was a pretty cool cohesive kit. I had been competing at the Teva Mountain Games for a really long time. It's now called the GoPro Games, and they had an event called Speed Trials, and it was a head-to-head trials race where you would go up and over obstacles and race 4 times using trial skills. I was pretty good at it. I guess that's why I was on Teva's radar, but they approached me about making a signature shoe, and growing up, I never thought I would have a signature shoe that I got to design with the design team from the ground up. So this was a shoe called the Teva Lynx. The people from Teva originally wanted to call it the Big Lanowski, and I thought, heck, unless you're Michael Jordan, I wouldn't want to wear some dude's name on my shoe. The reason I chose the name Lynx for the shoe is, obviously a bicycle has links, but I live on Lynx Court, and back in the day I used to have an event in my backyard called the Lynx Jam, so everything tied together. So that was the tie-in. So I thought the Lynx would be the perfect compromise. This was right when 510 was starting to get really popular, and 510s had a really, really grippy sole, which was awesome for mountain biking and awesome for downhill racing, but this was a little bit more of a free ride freestyle shoe, and we went back and forth really trying to dial in the tread so that it wasn't too sticky and it wasn't too slippery. We wanted to be able to adjust our foot on the pedal. So we ended up settling on this design. It has some knurling in the toe and the heel, which if you were hiking around, you could get some traction, but where your pedal would sit on the shoe, it had really good traction. This rubber being a little bit harder, you had to go with a little bit of pattern on the bottom in order to give the pins some pockets to sit in. We had this rip-proof toe piece It had really good ventilation. It had this armor rubber on top of it. It wouldn't tear or rip if you hit it with your pedal. I showed you the black one because the pattern on this shoe matches the frame. We also did some really cool colors, and that was one of my favorite things during that time, was picking these colors. The next year's version was gray with the fluorescent yellow. This was a really cool color scheme. I totally dug this one. But actually the first shoe that we ever released, charcoal gray with the white midsole. I wanted it to look more like an athletic shoe, a trainer, something like that. So we went with this white midsole, purple hits, gray. I would always run these optional purple laces. But this was a super fun project to work with, and I'm super thankful that Teva gave me the opportunity to do that. So the next product I want to show you is hanging on the wall behind me. It is my signature bike from Reeb Cycles called the Ridiculous. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I started riding for Reeb last year, and it's been awesome collaborating with such a small brand. I have so much input and it's really exciting. I basically wanted a gigantic trials bike that I can go out and trail ride on. And this is my dream do-all bike. I've taken this thing off some of the biggest drops at Mountain Creek, which is my local bike park, to climbing Horse Bench last fall for the first time, something I dreamt about for 11 years. So it's a super versatile frame. We started with a white paper and we're able to design exactly what I wanted. It's a long, low, agile, but slack front end hardtail that is awesome to ride. That brings us to my last and possibly favorite mountain bike product I've ever been able to put my name on. Oscar Blues Jeff Lenoski TB IPA. Looking at a beer can with my name on it is something I never ever thought would happen. So how do you get your name on a beer can? I remember finishing the whole enchilada a bunch of years ago, and my friend opened his cooler and handed me a Dale's Pale Ale. Flash forward a bunch of years, I saw that Oscar Blues was sporting Nate Hills, Nico Mullally, a bunch of mountain bike stuff, and I learned that Dale Katechis, who started Oscar Blues, was an avid mountain biker. Then I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who lived in Colorado and mentioned how cool it would be to be sponsored by Oscar Blues, and she mentioned that she was friends with Dale. So she connected us via email, and a couple days later I got a response from Dale, and he actually knew who I was. I couldn't believe it because I remember drinking his beer and thinking he was the world's most famous beer person ever. It turns out he was a fan as well. So about 4 years ago I started working with Oscar Blues. They were sponsoring the Trail Boss channel. I was doing some trials demos at their events, and it was a pretty cool relationship. Then last summer they approached me with the idea of doing a collaboration beer. They wanted to really try to drive home to the mountain bike audience that they love mountain biking and they support mountain biking, and they wanted to do something special for me, and I was completely flattered. So we had a bunch of meetings and one thing led to another. They asked me what type of beers that I liked. One of my favorite Oscar Blues beer of all time was called Pinner. You might be familiar with it. So if you ever get your hands on a TB IPA, you'll see that it tastes very similar to Pinner because that was one of my favorite beers. So let's just make it even better. So it's been really awesome sharing this trip down memory lane with you, talking about some of the past and present projects that I've done. If you get your hands on a TB IPA or a Ridiculous, let me know what you think. And if you are an old school mountain biker, let me know if you've tried any of these other products. I'd love to hear in the comments below. My next video, I'll be back out on the trail. So thanks for watching this. Until next time, get out there and be a boss.